Okay, so today's question comes in from Benjamin, and he asks, what are the most important characteristics of a successful powerhouse closer? I think I understand what you mean, Ben. I know that you are largely on the listing side of the business, so I'm going to talk to that here today and answer that question. And there's really five, maybe seven things that are really, really important characteristics of a powerhouse closer. Number one is somebody who's really good at closing, they're actually really good at opening. Okay? So what that means is that they're very good at building rapport, and they're very good at asking qualifying questions to draw out pain and motivation and to really understand the needs of whoever they're trying to work with. So that's number one. And there's a lot of sub traits that go into that, such as tone, pace, hesitation, modulation, mirroring and matching, and of course asking effective questions. The next trait is building value. So a successful closer knows that they have certain objections they're going to get at the end of the presentation. So in their actual presentation, they're trying to handle those objections by building value. So for example, they might bring up some of the most common objections in their presentation and then throw out a unique value proposition of what they do differently in their presentation, knowing they're probably going to get the objection anyway. So their top 5 to 7 objections are built in to their actual presentation. So also finding things that make them different. So whatever value they're offering, whatever their offer is, it's different than everybody else. The next thing is that because they're good at building rapport and qualifying, the third one is they're extremely good at what I call poking holes, meaning they'll analyze the situation, and they'll help the client critically think about what their plans are. And legitimately, if their plans are off, they're gonna plant a seed of doubt. They're gonna plant a seed of curiosity to wondering if there's a better way to do it. And it usually revolves around 3 things. How much time is it going to cost them? Or how much time are you going to be able to save them? How much money you're going to be able to either make them or save them, and how much hassle you're going to take away from their life. And you probably have heard that before, but those 3 things are what you should always be wrapping your presentation around as a successful closer. Another characteristic of a trait is they're very assumptive. They're not going to let the conversation go on and on and on about miscellaneous, what I would say, BS that doesn't have anything to do with what's in front of them. And when they're asked a question, they immediately take back over control and ask a question back to them to keep the conversation going. And then they're going to assume the next steps, whether the next steps is filling out the paperwork or setting up the appointment. Dynamic closers are very assumptive. Okay, so that's the next one. And then the another important characteristic of a dynamic closer is they're fearless when it comes to objections. Meaning, just because they get objections, they don't start getting wishy-washy. They're extremely confident. They know their objections. They know how to make sure it sounds like they're not overcoming objection, but they're showing tremendous empathy. And that's one big thing that you need to remember, is that empathy is a huge part of the objection cycle, and most agents get that wrong. Okay, most closers get that wrong. They're not really good at it. Sorry about the background noise. The next thing is they're amazing with their follow-up. So if they went through 3 or 4, maybe even 5 or 6 objection cycles, they still can't find the true pain and motivation, or the timing is just not right. They haven't convinced them to work with them, and it comes down to these 3 things. It's, do they like you? Do they trust you? And do they see enough value in working with you? Do they think that you can really help them solve their problem, right? So if those things line up, you're going to get the deal. If they haven't lined up yet, and I should say the third thing is timing. Sometimes they like you, trust you, and they see value, but it's timing. Timing might be a little bit of an issue. So if the timing's not there, then the next important trait or characteristics of a dynamic closer is actually how good they are at their follow-up. If they're really good and they have great follow-ups, they always say the fortunate is in the follow-up. Dynamic closers are also closing on the follow-up step. They do a good job of closing to the next appointment. And here's the deal. I'll leave you with this. Dynamic closers are closing at every step of the way. It's not just one close at the end that makes a dynamic closer. They've got strategic agreements from their ideal prospect along the way. Those are things that makes a dynamic closer. The final thing that makes a dynamic closer is somebody who is 100% obsessed with the first 5 or 6 things I just went over with you. Meaning they're tracking their metrics and they're managing their mindset. And they're obsessed with each step, and they're trying to get better and better and better, and they constantly apply the 1% rule where they're analyzing their process to get better and better and better. And finally, they have a pleasing personality. And that personality is wrapped in with a sincere, genuine desire to want to see them win. And the best closers don't just care about the contract, they care about the experience that the client has after. And those are the dynamic closers that you'll come across. Isaiah Colton here with a quick video here on answering the question of Benjamin Lang, talking about characteristics of the dynamic closer. Think about that. Become a dynamic closer. You'll double, triple, quadruple your income. Have a good day.